Good evening, and welcome to the 12th episode of the HeavyNFLD podcast. I am your host, Akhenaten, of course, and this is actually the first episode of 2019. Welcome to the new year, everyone. We got a very special episode of the podcast for you today, and why is that, you may ask? Well, it's because we're focusing entirely on one subgenre of heavy metal, black metal. After all, what better subgenre to celebrate the winter season that we're in right now? And I mean, it's one hell of a winter this year. I mean, up here in Montreal, the snow and the ice, it seems to be nonstop. Just the other day, it snowed incredibly heavily, and then all of the snow melted and refroze as ice, and the entire city turned into one giant fucking ice sheet. Actually, half the roads in the city got shut down because of flooding. It was just fucking chaos, but now it seems like things are leveled out a little bit. And I know that down in St. John's not too long ago, there was another huge storm. I think there were a bunch of streets that encountered flooding as well. So, you know, this winter, it's given us one hell of a wallop this year. And with everything that's happening with the planet, you know, with climate change, global warming, etc., that's probably not going to stop anytime soon. But again, what better way to celebrate the death of fucking Earth than with an entire episode based around the best fucking black metal that Newfoundland and Labrador has to offer. And we're going to kick it off with a band that most of you folks probably know and love. That is Winterhearth with The Chapel from Curse the Summer. All right, so that was The Chapel by Winterhearth. The thing I really like about Winterhearth is how they have this mixture of death metal with black metal. I think they do lean more on the death metal side, but they have that coldness that black metal brings out kind of sprinkled throughout their music, and I really like that. Admittedly, I didn't think that Resettlement, their second album, was as good as Curse the Summer, their first, which The Chapel is from. I gave it a 6 out of 10 actually on the Heavy NFLD blog when I reviewed it, but I since it's warmed on me a lot, honestly, in the time since then, and I genuinely think that it's a really, really good quality sophomore release. So yeah, I think everyone who is into death metal or black metal should go check out both of those albums. I think they're both fantastic releases. Up next, we have a song from a solo project that we've also played here before on the Heavy NFLD podcast. It's a project called Bone Alley from Adam Shar. Now, this guy, he's got lots of projects. Most of you guys who know about the metal scene in St. John's have probably seen multiple of his projects before, like Imbrued Sediments, which we played here before, as well as Nuclear Eden. Imbrued Sediments is more of a death metal project. Nuclear Eden is more thrash. But Bone Alley and another project called Oxygen Chapel, which we're going to play later on, are both black metal. Now, Bone Alley hasn't released anything in a long time, but I still think that his original releases under this title are really fucking good, highly recommended, and we're going to play a song from the second demo from Bone Alley called Hermit, and the name of the song is Navigating the Abyssal Veils. Alright, so once again, that was Navigating the Abyssal Veils by Bone Alley. Up next, we have another one-man black metal project called Domen. I don't really know much about the guy behind this project, but what I do know is that his material does vary between black metal as well as harsh noise. There's kind of a mixture of it on some of his releases, and some of his albums are just pure noise instead. And I can understand because I think that there's a pretty clear similarity between those two genres when it comes to extremity, I guess you could say. So anyway, we're going to play a song from one of the more black metal releases that Domen has put out. The name of this song is I Drift Through the Winter. Alright, so once again, that was I Drift Through the Winter by Domen. Up next, we have a song from another band that we've played on this podcast before, a very infamous band from my hometown of Glovertown, Newfoundland. These guys are quite demonic, they're quite evil, they're pretty much every heinous, offensive adjective you could possibly conjure under the sun. They go by the name of Anal Christ. This is a song from their only true black metal release entitled Fuck You, God, and the name of the song is Dildo of Serenity.
Ich kann sie nicht zählen, die zahlreichen Kinder, die mein dunkler Lord getötet hat. Das Land im Ost-West hat die Fotze meiner Schwester gefickt. Deutsches Blut am Boden verteilt.
Okay, so that was, again, Dildo of Serenity by Anal Christ from the EP Fuck You, God. Up next is a track from a band that they kind of mix the style of black metal in with crust punk. I guess you could say they're a blackened crust punk band. They're one of my personal favorites from the St. John's scene. A really, really awesome group of people, too. I know them personally. I think they're all amazing, but I love their music on top of that. This is Dark Era, of course. Who else would I be talking about? And this is a song from their only LP as of yet. I have heard that they are working on something new, but it's taken them a while to actually put it out because, you know, the band members have their lives that they have to do. I think some of them do go out of the province for quite an extended period of time on occasion, which is probably why this second album by them is taking so long. But in the meantime, we'll play something from their first LP because it's still fucking kick-ass and I love it to death. We've played them on the show before. This is Popess by Dark Era.
Dark fatal, dark time.
right, so now we're on to another project that I alluded to earlier in this show, by also Adam Shar. This is his other project called Oxygen Chapel, which he's admitted is basically just Velvet Cocoon worship. If you know who Velvet Cocoon are, you'll probably think this sounds pretty familiar to them. This is a track from his most recently released demo under this project entitled Pelagic Sentience. It came out towards the tail end of last year, and I think it's a fucking great heap of, I guess, atmospheric, sort of melancholy black metal. And the name of this song is entitled Orthodox Hindrance, again, by Oxygen Chapel. Alright, so moving right along from Oxygen Chapel, We're going into a bit of an older project here that doesn't really exist anymore. The name of this project is Himmelen, which I believe is Norwegian for sky or Old Norse for sky. I'm not entirely sure. But this is my friend Chris's project. He was working on this a long time ago, back when me and him were in college together. He eventually retired it and started working on evilest instead, which is another project that we'll probably end up playing on this episode as well. During Himmelen's tenure, I guess that's what you could call it, I helped him with one of these albums. Well, I guess it's more of an EP, and this is probably the most vicious song that me and him have ever recorded. The vocals on this thing, man, he fucking knocked it out of the park. And keep in mind that when we recorded this, we were in a really small apartment building in Stephenville, and the neighbors, I'm really surprised that they didn't complain because of how fucking loud it was, but goddamn, Chris's vocals are insane on this track. And I also think that this song has a bit of a Portal vibe as well. If you know Portal, they're a really experimental black and death metal band. They are one of the ugliest sounding bands out there, and this track always reminded me of them. But anyway, without further ado, we're going to get right into it. It's called The Storm by Himmelen from the EP Empty Earth.
Never
Whew, goddamn. I keep forgetting just how fucking loud that song is. Jesus. Anyway, moving right along, the next track that we have is from a project I don't really know anything about. I know that it's from Newfoundland, but I don't know where exactly. I don't know the hometown, don't even know who it is that's behind this project. But the name of the song is Reaping the Graves by Lurking Demise. So once again, that was Reaping the Graves by Lurking Demise. Up next, we have a song from one of my own projects, actually. I've played a song from this project before on the podcast. The name of it is Cult of Azura, and it's a black metal project based entirely around the lore of the Elder Scrolls, especially Morrowind and the Dark Elves, the Dunmer, if you're familiar at all with the Elder Scrolls series. Of course, when you actually go onto the Bandcamp where my demo is posted, I have it underneath a different name, specifically because I wanted it to seem as if this project was coming straight out of that world, as in it was like this is a black metal band that exists within the Elder Scrolls universe. Like the characters are actually elves. Basically, it's an elvish black metal band. I don't know why, I just really wanted to do it. But I only put out 2 songs for it so far. I played Red Year on another episode. Now we're going to play Pure Elvish Supremacy. But that's why when you go on to the Bandcamp, you see the hometown listed as, or actually on the HeavyNFLD channel, the hometown is listed as Blacklight Morrowind. And then the band members are listed as Sethrin Morvain, Maluria Helleran, and Drulvan Farano. Because those are Dark Elvish names, because I'm a huge fucking nerd and I love the Elder Scrolls. So anyway, this is Pure Elvish Supremacy by Cult of Azura.
Justice, yeah.
Alright, so that was pure Elvish Supremacy from Cult of Azura from my demo entitled Ald Dunmaris. Of course, February is coming up, and you all know what that means. It is RPM month, Record Production Month. I'm really excited because, I know that there's going to be some new metal releases, hopefully some really good shit. Last year we got some awesome stuff like Nuclear Eden, for example, like I mentioned earlier. Endrot was another really good album that totally blindsided me, was not expecting that to come out at all. So I'm really looking forward to what's coming out this year. But the reason I mention that is because I'm having a bit of trouble deciding what I'm going to do myself. I'm debating between doing a Cult of Azura album for RPM or one of my other projects that I kind of have brewing in the back of my head. I actually haven't done an RPM under the same project name since I've begun doing it. The first time I did it, it was a Mistwalker album. The second time, it was God Damn It, which is my hardcore punk project. And last year, it was Wavering Radiant, which is my neo-folk project. So I might even just do something under a completely new title this time, or I might do something by Cult of Azura. I might even do Mistwalker. I haven't really decided yet. But anyway, I'm just looking forward to RPM this year a lot. Also, this is actually the last song for this episode. We're going to play a track from a sort of experimental black metal band that I only found out about recently thanks to a Facebook post by the one and only Harry Clark. He posted a picture of this band's cassette, and I was really curious because I'd never heard of them before, couldn't find them on the internet, and he was generous enough to shoot me a link to the MySpace page for them, which is the only presence they have on the entirety of the internet. So this is a track by the band Homolka. I'm pretty sure that it's actually a one-man project, but the interesting thing is that this band is named after a notorious Canadian serial killer. I actually can't remember her first name. I think it was Carla or Karen, something like that. It begins with a K. Carla Homolka, that's what I'm going with. And the name of the track is Teale, but this entire album by this band is based around the killings of this woman and her husband. So I highly suggest you go onto the HeavyNFLD YouTube channel after you listen to this. Check out the entire album. I just put it up there a few days ago. It's genuinely some really good shit. But yeah, without further ado, this is going to be the final track for today. Teale by Homolka. Boom. So, guess what? This is actually not the end. It's just that I feel like one entire hour of a black metal podcast is a lot. All that only is all that some people can take. So there's actually going to be a second part to this because there are a fuck ton of one-man black metal bands out of Newfoundland, and I don't want to leave this idea without giving all of them a shot at having a track played. So this is going to be the end of the first part, but tune in tomorrow, hopefully, for the second part of this episode. If not tomorrow, it's at least going to come out before the end of January. But until then, I have been your host, Akhenaten. Black metal is fucking awesome. Support local, support Newfoundland, stay fucking heavy. Peace out.